questions. It's the questions, boy. It's the questions. It's the questions. Come on, the questions. It's the questions, boy. It's the questions. It's the questions, yeah. The questions. It's the questions, y'all. It's the questions. It's the questions.
Hey, it's the questions. This is the Ask the RK Child show. This is a show where you can call in. If you submit your question now, you get a call in. If not, we go to the repository. But on the Ask the RK Child show for April 1st, this is April Fool's Day, but this is no fool's show. We're going for some real deal stuff. I got a special guest on the show today. I'm giving my special guest a moment to introduce herself.
So I'm Georgina Rivera. I work for Bristol Public Schools. I'm the elementary STEM supervisor, former math coach, but coach of coaches, and I'm here with Chris on the Chris Child Show.
The Ask the RK Child Show, the first ever live. I think this is the first ever. I'm gonna say it's the first ever. How about this? Here's my caveat. This is the first ever live show that I know of. I got you. So if you want to submit your question, we have time for typically 1 to 2 questions. You go to ChristopherChilds.com/free workshop. Be prepared to answer your phone. It's typically between 12:15 and 12:30, but if you're live, you're seeing we went a little bit over, but if you're still hanging out with us, you can submit a question and we will call you. If you do not want a phone call, just put all 9s in there. Some people put a fake number and I'm like, hello, this is the Ask the RK Child Show. They're like, this is Pizza Hut. I'm like, I didn't order pizza.
That Pizza Hut?
Oh my God.
Yeah, we don't want deliveries right now. we don't.
No, we don't. So if you're watching this show in 2020, we don't want deliveries. If you're watching it later, this is just no Corona was happening. Yeah, we don't no deliveries. All right, let's jump into it. We do have some questions. I call it priming the pump. I used to stay in Texas. We're gonna prime the pump with a question, give you time to submit yours. If not, we answer these questions and then we give you back your day and your time. Oh my gosh, look at this. Oh man, I just read the question.
You had to hit me with that one, Chris.
Ooh.
Whoa.
That's what the people hit us with. All right, let's read it.
Look at.
How do I handle combative teachers when I give them feedback? All right, so this is the Ask the RK Child Show. When you submit me questions, you don't know who's going to be on the show. You know I'm going to answer them. But today, guess what? It's ladies first. I'll let my co-host answer first. Then I'll give you some feedback for what's my bet for combative teachers. I'm joking. I'm joking.
We're not going to get violent, Chris. We're gonna go with.
We're not going to Joe Clark, but go ahead.
So I would say the best piece of advice is when someone is really, really upset, probably you shouldn't have the conversation right away, because when someone is that upset, it never works out to be well. So usually what I'll do is I will just listen to the teacher and try to hear the root of the problem. And then I'll say to them, you know what, I hear what you're saying, and I'm going to come back. Let's set up another time when you're a little less upset, because you know people are upset and you don't want to engage them. And then I come back, and when they're in a better space, we'll have a conversation. But I would say the best thing here, the best advice is you have to figure out for that teacher is when you're giving them feedback, what's bothering them about the feedback? Are they personalizing it? Or are they not understanding what you're actually saying? Or do they feel like they can't do it? Because a lot of times people get combative because I might be asking them to do something that's out of their skill set, but they don't want to admit it. So then they get combative. So instead, I try to meet them where they are in their learning. And so you just want to de-escalate first, figure out what is the root cause, and then be able to work with them to actually help them through so they feel successful at the end. So you have to handle them with grace.
All right.
Now, Chris, I see you have a different tactic, which is...
I have the Joe Clark tactic.
Oh, he said Joe Clark. Oh, jeez.
They used to call me Joe Clark. Now they call me Batman. I keep this in my office. You can't
Joe Clark when you're coaching, man.
I keep this just in case I get the combative student, the combative teacher. But... So here's my advice. How do you handle combative teachers?
I got to hear this.
I'm going to give you all first. I like to think about the root of the problem on the front end.
Okay.
I was sitting in on an interview with one of my friends for a very successful business. On his interview, he actually puts his interviewees through a scenario. Mm-hmm. And on the back end, he allows them to provide feedback how they thought they did. He provides them feedback. The scenario relates to the job, but it's kind of abstract in a sense.
Right.
So later, I'm like, why do you do this scenario? And he said, it's not about them trying, in this scenario, they're trying to sell something. It's all about, are they receptive to the feedback that I give?
Right.
So in his hiring, he gets to learn whether or not they're going to be receptive to feedback. So thinking about this is, if you're watching it live, this is hiring season. You have to have that in the back of your mind. You kind of know when you hire people. Gary Vaynerchuk says it best. You don't know when you hire. You do not know when you hire, but you do know when you fire. So that's on the front end. On the back end, when it comes to handling combative teachers, watch our episode 5 Tips for Math Coaches. We discuss developing relationships. Because have you noticed, just like with students, some students work better with some teachers than others? You know, sometimes we'll say, Johnny acts up in my class. He's great in my class. It's the same thing with your teachers and your colleagues. Why do people act different? It's based upon the circumstances. So what I try to do is to get to know you and your triggers so we can have this dialogue. And again, I've had situations where my teachers hated my feedback, but I always gave them first, tell me what you think. This is what I think, and here's my support and rationale. But then also, this is how we can get better. And then on the very front end, before we even get to the feedback, we make an agreement. We're here for the students. Right. The things that we do are for the students. Some things I do, I don't like to do. But if it's for the students, I'm going to do it. Yeah. So that's some long-winded feedback, but I wanted to give our listeners different scenarios based upon where they're at, because it should never escalate when you have to go get this.
Yeah, we're not going to Joe Clark them, but I'll tell you, like, I'm working on a feedback series with some of the principals that I work with, and we're taking a journey about learning about feedback. There's an art to it, Chris. Like, we couldn't sum it up right now, even if we wanted to, because that's a whole show within itself on how to give feedback to people. And the thing is, it always stings a little, like even to myself. Like when I have my own coach, right? And when they give it to me, I'm like, oh, didn't feel so good. But if I actually internalize it and take the feedback and it pays off on like after. So it just, people have to get used to, the more you give feedback, like I think people are like, oh, I've had bad experiences giving feedback, so I don't do it. No, the more you do it, the better you get at it, and the more people receive it. We need to be in a culture of giving feedback, just like we would in our classroom with our students. It has to be the same with our staff, has to be the same with principals. So
I like that. You have to continue practicing giving feedback to get better at giving feedback. So it's not something it didn't work. And you never know. Sometimes people have a bad day. I am the one. I don't know why. When people have to give others feedback, especially if it's bad, I'm like that guy. So we should just throwing it out there. We may do an episode, hint, with somebody else. We may do a show on feedback. We may. All right, next question.
All right.
My administrators do not support what I am doing. They want math taught the old way. What do I do? I'm assuming this question is from a leader or a math coach.
Yeah.
So just to give our listeners some context. So essentially we're going to use it through the lens of math, and it can be just for anything you're trying to do as a leader. This is my show. I'm doing ladies first. I'll be honest. I'm just taking the pressure off of me. Let someone else start, and then I jump in. Go ahead.
Okay. So I've been in this situation before, and so you have to develop the why, right? Or the theme of the show is know the why. So if they're not sure about this new initiative that you want to do, then you have to help them to understand the why, because as the building principal, they have to speak to the why. Because teachers, when they come to complain, they come to them. They don't come to us all the time. So they might be a little reluctant because they might say, well, why are we doing this? The answer can't be because Gina told me, because that's not a good reply. The answer has to be about students. And right now, the data is telling us they need something different. We need to change our practices. And so we research some different ideas, and this is the right work, right? We all need to be rallied around the right work. And again, that goes along with the guiding coalition. You're not going to roll out this idea to the whole staff first. This goes back to our early point. So we look at the data, we identify an area, and with the principal, right? because the principal is a stakeholder in this, you need to build their understanding. Like many principals are excellent leaders, and they might have a strength in science or ELA, or like, I don't know what it is, but if it's not math, you have to empower them too. So I'm always empowering my principals about this is what good math looks like. So they feel empowered to be able to give feedback, and then they can speak to this question. So I say a lot of this is like about the skill set of understanding what good math is. So that's what I would do if a principal wasn't supporting what I was trying to do. Use the data, show them the research-based practices, build that guiding coalition, and then move forward with the initiative. And that's a better sequence of learning for everyone, like for the leader, for the teachers, for myself as a coach. Otherwise, it's going to end up being, well, Gina told us we're going to do this, and we'll see what happens. Like, that's not going to work.
Here's I got three statements.
Yep.
First, use the data.
Yep.
Second, I make every administrator, when I'm doing something, they have to shadow me the entire time because I want them to experience and understand what we're trying to do.
Love that.
Number 3, I tell every administrator, if it don't work, we can revert. If you don't like it, the data doesn't show it's working, we can always go back to the old way. But I just ask you to trust me in my leadership. That you called me to be a leader. Yes. Just let me try it. If it works, let's keep going. If it don't work, I'll be the first to say it does not work. But we have to agree we're here for the students.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's we got to do. And here's the thing, like coaches, I'm going to give you a little warning. Sometimes you're going to be in situations where they're not always happy with you. You have to be okay with being uncomfortable. It goes back to the other one. Like, change initiative across the building for leaders, coaches, teachers, it's uncomfortable. So you have to acknowledge that too. And I love what you said, Chris, like we're always reverting. If we're in a true PLC and we're looking at data and we're looking at student outcomes, if it's not working, we're going to try something new. And I'm going to be part of that conversation with you. So that way they don't feel alone as a leader, because, you know, as a building leader, you have a lot of responsibilities. You need your coaches alongside you to help you move student achievement and student outcomes in mathematics. And so you have to partner with them.
You have to have your coaches alongside with you. You got to collaborate. All right, we got one more question. If you submitted something at this point, we do 3 questions for the sake of time. But guess what? This show is on all the time. You can always submit questions. You don't have to submit it at the moment. You can submit it and we can do it the next time. All right. Here's a good question.
Yeah.
You all know I'm going to defer first, but I'll read it first. Do you have any leadership books you recommend I read?
So, well, this is a problem because people who know me know I read all the time. Now I don't have my office. I'm like in a virtual office.
Yes, I did. Reach behind me and find a book.
I know. I'm mad because I can't go. Like Chris is going to pull out all his titles and I look like I'm dancing right now because I got none. All right.
I'm prepared. I'm prepared for the questions.
Chris, don't make me look bad. I'm not going to come back. I'm not going to come back. So what I'm currently reading is the Brené Brown book, The Dare to Lead. And so that's my current favorite book. And the reason why is it talks about how to work with people and teams and being vulnerable in your leadership. And I know that sounds like, wow, is that leadership? Yes, because in there she talks about being clear and kind. Because when you're clear, you're being kind to your employees, to your teachers, to your leaders. When she also says unclear is unkind. So what I see in schools happen is when there's no clear initiative, it's actually unkind because teachers are feeling unsuccessful, kids are feeling unsuccessful, coaches are feeling unsuccessful because I don't know what the pathway is. When it's clear, then I can get there. So that would be like my current favorite. But I can't not say my favorite book, which is Heart by Tim Canold. And the reason why is because it's having a fully professionally formed life. It really talks about how to be a leader, and it talks about the work of teaching and the heart of it. And so you can't disconnect the two. We're in a profession where we work with people, but we're also leaders. And so thank you, Chris, that book.
My autograph copy. Copy.
Why I gotta rub it in my face? Chris, that ain't right.
Shout out to my guy, Tim Kane. That's my dude.
He's good people. But that book, so like it really talks about leadership from the point of view of like being a good leader, but also leading people at the heart, and then the heart of teaching. So I'm good now, Chris. I want to hear yours. Like I'm at the wait. Let me get at the edge of my seat here. Go ahead.
So I read so many books. I'm going to go to the left. I know everyone wants a leadership book. There are tons of leadership books. They all say the same stuff, in my opinion. So what I like to do is get people to think outside the box, outside the norm. There are 2 books that I recommend. 2 books. One of them, and one because I'm reading it right now, literally right now. I should be done with this book in like a day or 2. I'm just being lazy. Culturally Responsive Teaching and the Brain by Zaretta Hammond. Promoting authentic engagement and rigor among culturally and linguistically diverse students. The reason I like this book, as a leader, we need to start thinking outside the box and outside the traditional norm, because in the traditional norm, students have not been succeeding. So with that being said, how do we think differently about what books we recommend? My all-time favorite book that I recommend to every leader, I don't have the hard copy, I have it actually on my iPad, is Where Do We Go From Here by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This book is a great personal read book, and it helps you develop as a person, because for me, being a leader, it's not about do I know the content or just pedagogy or education in general, but it's when I look in the mirror, I'm looking in the phone, that's my mirror. That's who I got to work on and got to fix. I got to get better. This has been the Ask the RK Child Show. We appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. I had a special guest. Do you want to say any last words? I'm looking down because on my screen she's below me, so it depends upon how it goes. But
yeah,
go ahead. Any last minute things?
No. I appreciate everyone who watched, and hoping that we can be on together again. Hey, Chris, maybe share another topic with everybody. But I really appreciate the time that people took out of their day to be able to watch us on the show.
Check this out. If you want to back on the show, hit me up. But until the next time, this has been the Ask the RK Child Show, and I got outgoing music. Check this out.
I knew it, Chris. Here he goes. This is Club Quarantine. Is that what we're doing right now?